Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of this new series, How to Build a Grid Bot. In the last video, we learned how to stream some real-time market data using the Alpaca Crypto API. So you can see right here, we built this web page here where we're streaming real-time quotes with Ethereum price data, and we're also streaming real-time trades here over WebSockets, and we're using JavaScript to do this. So in the last video, I got a number of comments saying, please do it in Python, and I get you, I'll probably follow up with a Python version of this. However, I don't want people to be afraid to try other programming languages. I get that most of my videos are Python for finance here, but I want to continue branching out, both to keep it interesting for me, but also to expand the types of applications we can develop. And I think we can do a lot of interesting things in the browser if we branch out and use JavaScript. And that's also why I've branched out to do some Solidity smart contract programming as well. I get those videos weren't quite as popular because they're a little bit different than what I usually do, but they also really expand the number of topics I can cover and the interesting things we can do with user interfaces and decentralized exchanges and things like that. So it's important to continue to try new things. Otherwise, it's just there's a lot of Python, Jupyter Notebook, data analysis, pandas type YouTube channels out there at this point. And so I want this channel to continue to push the boundaries of that a little bit more. So the last video, we were streaming this real-time data, so we focused on the data aspect. So on part 2, this video, I'd like to expand on that and go from getting just data that's streaming to actually displaying a real-time candlestick chart of this data. So you can see we have some historical data, and this is by the minute, and you can see there's real-time updates here happening as this data is being streamed in. And then in the next video, we'll build upon that and start building grid lines and actually execute some trades. And so we're doing this piece by piece. For our data visualization, we're going to be using Lightweight Charts, which is a free open source charting library that was released by TradingView. And if you're unfamiliar, TradingView makes the most popular platform for charting on the web. You see, you can do all these cool quick zoomable visualizations on all the different time frames, add all kinds of indicators, different types of candles, area charts, all this different functionality. And you notice all of this was written in JavaScript in the browser. They can be shared with people. They have an embedded PineScript editor and so forth. And it really kind of showcases the power of JavaScript you have here. And so we're going to use that functionality inside of our GridBot. And so they've released this library, and all you have to do is click Get Library right here, and then you can get a copy of it. So you can either check out the source code and build it, or you can do npm install. But what I'm going to do for simplicity is you can actually include it directly from a CDN. So you can use this URL right here. And so this is from unpackage.com, and all I have to do is go to our index.html here, and we can just put in a script tag, just like that. And I'm just going to do source equals, and just like that, we have a copy of that library included in our web page, right? And then all we have to do here is kind of look at some of the examples. And so you can see they just do lightweight charts, create chart, they give it some element, a width and height, and they can just start adding series of data to it. And they also provide a number of different examples down here in this gallery. So if you kind of see a starting point you want to use, maybe you want your chart to look like this watermark version or this floating tooltip, maybe you want to add that to your chart, you can do that. And since we're doing like a real-time data version, they have this real-time emulation example right here. So let's take a quick look at the example here. So you see they have a new chart variable. They initialize lightweight charts. They do create chart. They give it some element on the page. They give it a width and height, and then they pass it a series of data. So they create this candle series. So it's a series here. And then they just have this array of data here. So it just has timestamps, open, high, low, close for each of those timestamps. And then if I scroll down, let's see what they got. They got candle series.set data, so they set this series to this series of data, and then it looks like they just keep updating the current bar. So they keep adding a new bar onto the chart. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a chart, but instead of using these hard-coded values and just generating random data here, we're going to fetch real historical data. So probably the last couple hours of data from the Alpaca Crypto API. We're going to render those on the chart, and then we're going to use our WebSocket to subscribe to all the most recent trades. That way we can update this current minute bar in real time. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So we'll start copying a little bit of this example, but we'll make it our own. First of all, let's give it a place to put the chart. So I had this bars section, but I'm just going to call it chart, and I'm going to give it an ID of chart, okay? And I don't think we need that to be a panel. So let me open what we have here and uncomment. So I have this section here for chart that we need to fill in, and that's what we're going to put there. And what I want to do is have the chart on the left side and the quotes and trades on the right side of the page. So what I can do is create a couple of divs here. So I'm going to call this div, I'll give it an ID of right. So this stuff is everything that's going to be on the right side of the page, okay? The quotes and trades. And then this is going to be everything that's on the left side of the page. So div ID equals left, and I'll put the chart on the left side of the page, right? So we got that. And then each of those IDs we can style. So the left side here, I can do, to select that ID, I just do hashtag left, and I can just give that a certain width. So I'm going to make that, for instance, 700 pixels. And then everything on the right, I'm going to do float to the right side. And I think that should work. Let me refresh that. Okay, so it's going to be on the right side. So that looks pretty good. We can give this a certain width as well. Let me put a container here just so it doesn't go all the way to the right. So I'm going to call this div ID equals container, and then put the left and right side inside of here. Let's just make this a fixed width for now. So I'm going to lay out our visualization as well as our streaming data. So we have one container, we have some stuff on the left, and then some stuff on the right. And then the overall container, let's just say that's with 1200 pixels. And that ought to look all right. Okay, there you go. So we got a place to start putting this chart. I haven't put anything there yet. So for our chart, let's go ahead and get that ID and do it like they did here. So we just need to create a new chart and a candle series and some data. So up here above our WebSocket, I can do that. So instead of document.body, I'm going to put it inside of the chart ID. So I'm going to do get element by ID a chart. So we're going to get that chart element, and then we're going to give it a width, and we'll try this out and see how it looks. We're going to add a candle series, so that's the same thing we need, and then we'll give it a few data points just like this one. So we're going to do some data, and let's just see what the sample data looks like, and then we'll fill this in with real data that's fetched from an API. And then if I scroll down here, you see after they populate the data, they do candle series set data. So you define the data, then you set the data to this candle series, and then let me refresh that. And look at that, we have 3 data points right there. Let me give it a few more, and then we'll fill it in with our own. So I'm gonna grab let me get 10 data points here. So I'm gonna get 10 of these, just to have it filled in a little bit more. Okay, so we have 10 data points right there, and you see, I want to give it a little bit more, let's give it a little bit more width so this chart actually fits. So let's do container, let's see, 1400 pixels, will that work? Yeah, there you go. So 1400 pixels, and then we'll just make this taller and wider. And so gridbot, I'm going to do width 700 and height 800. All right, so that's starting to look all right. So we got a chart here, but it's still kind of ugly. And so we just need to customize this with our own theming and our own data. So let's figure that out. And so to save some time on the customization, since that's not really what this is about, I'm going to go ahead and copy some points in here, some configuration into this chart. So I'm going to paste these in. And so let me walk you through those real quick. So we don't need this crosshair. I'm saying these are all the different configuration options, and they're just in lightweight charts documentation. I've already looked them up. So layout, I just wanted to give it a background color to make it black and make the text color white. I wanted some grid lines on it that are gray. And then I wanted the price scale to have a gray color, the time scale to have a gray color. And I wanted to actually show the time. Since we're doing a minute chart, the other one just had a daily chart by default. And so I want to show the timestamp. And you can see when I actually do that, this becomes black like I want it. We have some gray grid lines here, and then we have the prices in white here on the right. but I'm only passing it currently this hard-coded data that's just by the day. What we wanted to actually do is pass it some minute-by-minute data. And so to do that, let's go ahead and fetch some real data. And to do that, we can use Alpaca, the crypto API right here. And just to mention once again, Alpaca is a sponsor of the channel, and it really helps me out a lot to make these videos. If you click the link below to check out Alpaca, sign up, try it out. You can build all this cool stuff with it, and I'm gonna do lots of videos on Alpaca in the future. And if you have questions on it, you don't need to just DM me. They actually have a Slack channel with like 10,000 people, 12,000 people on there right now, where you can ask questions, and there's people that hang out, and they have their own message board and everything. All right, so historical crypto data. So what we want to do is go ahead and fetch some bars when the page loads. And so we can do that with this V1 crypto symbol bars right here. And so what I can do as soon as the page loads here, instead of setting data that way, what we can do is use this endpoint. And so this crypto bars endpoint actually has a base URL. So if you click crypto pricing API, you can see it's data.alpaca.markets /v1 beta crypto. So I can build this URL. So I'll do var bars URL equals like that. And then I can delete that bit. And then we have some symbol, and I can do ETH/USD right there, or use a variable right there. So we can do like that. And then we can specify a start time, a time frame, and exchanges. So you can see there's different exchanges here, like FTX and Coinbase. I'm just going to use Coinbase data for this one, so because I don't want to do two different charts of two different exchanges. So I'm going to do query parameters. And to show you where I got this, let me go to historical data. And so you see query parameters is exchanges, start, and limit. And so a query parameter, all you do is in this get request, you can do question mark exchanges equals CBSE. Okay, so to get exchange data from Coinbase. And for the bars endpoint, I can do a time frame. So I can do time frame, and then I'm going to do 1 minute like that. And it shows you can do 1 minute, 15 minute, hour, 1 day. And then we can also do a start time equal to a certain time. Okay. So for the start time, since this is a more high frequency thing on the minute time frame, we only need data to start out on our chart. Let's just show the past hour or two of data. So our start time will be an hour ago. And so Alpaca requires this to use a ISO string, an RFC, what do they call it? RFC 3339 format with nanosecond precision. And so the way we can generate that is we can use JavaScript's date time object. So I'm going to create a new variable called a start, and I just need to create a new date. And I'm going to do date.now, so get the current time in seconds. And then I'm going to subtract, since we're doing 2 hours, there's 3,600 seconds in an hour, so there's 7,200 seconds in 2 hours. And then JavaScript does this in milliseconds, so we need to multiply times 1,000. And then I'm going to do 2 ISO string to get it in that RFC format that they want. And let me log that to the console just to make sure I know this works still. So I'm going to do view developer JavaScript console, refresh, and do authentication. And I'm streaming too much data here. Let me get this gotta quote stuff. Let me comment out a lot of this stuff so that we're not streaming all this data to the console. Okay, so I'm going to refresh this. All right, and so you see I have this timestamp. This is the format that they want, and I'm logging that there. And so in our URL where we have that start time, so start equals that, I'm logging the start time. We need to add the start time on the end, and so I can either embed this as a string literal, or I can just do plus a start like that, and that should be the URL we need. So I'm just going to leave this lowercase. Okay. So when the page loads, I just need to fetch this endpoint, and that'll give me the minute data for the last 2 hours. And so JavaScript has HTML fetching built in. You just use the fetch function here, and you can give it this bars URL just like that. And then we need to authenticate our HTTP request to the Alpaca API. So to do that, we just need to pass it in some headers. And so these headers are in the documentation here. And so if you look in here, you just need to pass it in the API key ID and secret key, just like that. And so for headers, this is just an object. And I just need to APCA API key ID like that, and our API key, and then our secret key, APCA API secret key like that. Okay, and we have this defined already when we subscribe to our WebSocket, so I hard-coded it in, but what I can do is create a new variable up here like that, and then a secret key, const secret key like that. And I realize I'm capitalizing some, and I'm being a little inconsistent here, so sorry about that, but that's what I'm doing right now, and I don't want to go through and change everything live here. So I have my API key and secret key there, and then I'm using those to authenticate the WebSocket, and then I'm going to reuse these down here as my API key and our secret key right here. So we're fetching this bars URL, we're passing it our authentication headers, and then we need to define what comes back. And so in JavaScript, you need to do get a response back, and then that's going to be in JSON. So you need to convert that to JSON, and then these are promises, just like that. So I'm going to fetch the bars URL, pass it some headers to authenticate, parse the JSON response, and then I'm going to log the response to the console to see what comes back and make sure this is working. So I'm going to do that, refresh, and then let's check it out. You see invalid exchange time frame equals 1 minute. So exchanges equals, oh, not comma. So I don't want comma there. I want and then I don't want a comma there. I want and. Okay. So those are 3 different parameters that need an and there you go. Look at this. So we got bars here that are coming back. And so you see we have bars coming back from Coinbase. You see it has a timestamp. It has an exchange, CBSE. It gives you the VWAP. It gives you the volume, open, high, low, close, and the timestamp. And so that's exactly what we want. So it uses OHLC here. And let's see what our data format right here uses. So you see, lightweight charts requires them to be named open, high, low, close, and time, and these are OHLC and T. So we need to transform that data that comes back to make it look like this format. And so I'm going to take this here, I'm going to delete that, and then so instead of setting the data from that data, I'm going to set data using the data that's transformed and fetched in this bar request. So I'm going to fetch the bars, and then I'm going to get the response. I'm going to transform it and make it called data, and then I'm going to set that data right here. So to transform that response into a new response, I can use the JavaScript Map Function, and this works exactly the same as it does in Python. So Python has a map function. So if you have an array that looks one way and you want to apply a certain function to every element in that array, you can use the map function. Okay. So what I can do is create a new variable called bars, or called data. Let's call it data since we're calling it data below. And I'm going to do response.bars, because you see we have response. This is the response, and you see it has a bars attribute right there. So I'm going to take this bars array and transform it. So I can do response.bars.map. And so for each one of those bars, each one of those, I can call it bar. And then in here, I can just transform it to look like that new format. And so what I want it to look like is open, and then I'll set it to bar.o since it's called .o right here, right? And so I'm just mapping these to new fields. So bar.h, low is bar.l, and close is bar.c, and then time is, I need to parse this date here. So I'm going to do date.parse bar.t divided by 1,000. And let me go ahead and show you what this looks like now that it's transformed. So I'm going to refresh this. Okay. And then let me look what the transform bars look like. Open, high, low, close. And then I have a timestamp like this. And the reason I did this date.parse here is we had this text format in the bars. But what it actually wants when we're doing a date time is they want a Unix timestamp. And so I converted that to a Unix timestamp right there. And then so in this transform one, you see I have the time in seconds right there. And then I have open, high, low, close just like they wanted. And then if I look here, look at that. So we have lightweight charts integrated with the Alpaca crypto API. We fetched the bars from the API, we transformed it to the response expected by lightweight charts, and then we have this full chart rendered for the last couple of hours here. And so we're looking pretty good on our visualization so far. And so the next thing we need to do is just figure out how to update the current bar in real time so that we have real-time charting. So to do that, I want to keep track of the current bar's timestamp. So I want to keep track of this current bar, and I want to keep track of the trades that are in the current bar. And so for that, I'm going to go to the top here and define a couple more variables. And I really need to clean this up a bit. I'm putting a lot of code in here. So I'm going to do const current bar, and this is just going to be an object, just like that. And I'm going to create an array called trades, like that. And so what I'm going to do is update a current bar based on the trades that are coming in. So this incoming list of trades will gradually build up an open, high, low, close for a bar, and then we're just going to append that onto the end there. So when the page first loads and I fetch all of these bars from historical data, the last bar in this data list, that's actually the current bar. So I want to keep track of that at the very beginning. So I'm going to fetch the bars, and I'm going to store that last bar in current bar. So I'm going to do current bar equals data.length minus 1. So I'm going to get the length of this, subtract 1, and I'm going to get that very last bar off the end because I'm going to need to use that in a moment. All right, so when the page loads, we're doing our initial request to get the past couple of hours of data. We're rendering that on the chart, and now we need to update that chart in real time using our WebSocket data. So how do we do that? So we have our WebSocket here down below, and we're processing the messages, remember, so we're looping through each of these messages for var key and data. We check the type of that data key, and it can either be type quote, it can be type trade, or it can be type bar. And we weren't doing anything yet with type bar. And so we're streaming in new bars, but this particular type only happens once a minute. And so each time a new one of these bars comes in, we can just append it to our chart. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're looping through var key and data. And so remember, each bar is in data key here. And so when a new bar comes in, I'm logging data key, and let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to look at that in the console and see what we get. You see I caused an error here. It said assignment to constant variable on current bar. And yeah, so I messed that up here. I said constant when really this is just a variable. So you can do either let or you can do var. So I'll do let current bar and then let trade, since these values are going to be changing, because in this fetch I actually changed the value in a constant. Obviously you can't change the value, so messed that one up there. Okay, so now this is working right here, and so let's go ahead and let a new bar come in. So at the end of every minute we should get another bar of data. All right, you can see we got a couple new bars of data, and so this is actually the same minute, but one of them is from Coinbase and one is from FTX. I mentioned we're just going to use the Coinbase for now, so let's go ahead and check that the exchange is Coinbase. So I'm going to do if data key X, so if the type is B and data key dot X equals Coinbase, do like that, then we can go ahead and process this bar. So this is our Coinbase bar, and we're going to add that bar to the chart each time a new bar comes in. And so to do that, we're going to set current bar equal to, we got a timestamp, and so our timestamp here is in this format, and remember we need to convert it to a Unix timestamp so that it goes, so that lightweight charts can use it because it expects a Unix timestamp. And so I can do var bar equals data key, and then I can do var timestamp equals, and I can do a new date object, and I can do bar dot t, just like that. And then I can do get time, divide by 1,000, and then that'll give me the timestamp I need. And so I'll set a time to timestamp open to bar.o, high to bar.h, low to bar.l, and close to bar.c. Okay, and that should be what I need for the current bar. And then I can just do I can get my candle series and do update to update current bar, and it should update the current bar. Oh, this needs to be lowercase x for the exchange. Okay, so I'm going to refresh now, and then so it's at the 35-second mark. you see we have this green bar 2896.65. So our WebSocket should eventually receive another minute bar, and so we should see this go from 2896.65, and then we should get another full bar that gets appended to this chart when our series update calls. There you go. There it goes right there, 2895.62. So we got a new bar, and you see it has a close of 2895.62, which is right there, which is lower than the open of 2896.48. And so, yeah, new bar came in. We rendered it in real time right there on the chart. However, we want to take it even one step further than that. What we want to do is, now that a new bar has already started, we want to see that bar kind of get built up in real time based on the trades that are streaming in right here. And so let's go ahead and figure out if we can figure out how to start rendering the next bar. So we have the current bar right here, but if we add 60 seconds onto that, we can go ahead and start rendering the next bar by building that bar out of the trades that are coming in. And so what I can do here is, remember we made this trades array right here. So every time a new bar comes in right here, I can reset that trades array just like that. So we'll start it as empty. And then up here, when we're processing the WebSocket for type trade, we can go ahead and build up a new bar and start rendering that on the chart. And so what I can do here is do trades. Every time a new trade comes in, I can do trades.push, data key, and it has a price, right? And so let me do console log trades right here, and you'll see what that looks like. So I'm opening this up, and you see I'm building this list of prices here. So just a bunch of trades are executing as this goes through, and I'm building this array of different trades. And I can use this array of trades to start rendering the next bar here. And so I'm trying to show an open, high, low, and close. And so the open here will just be that first trade in this array, and the close will be the last one. So what I can do is start building up a new bar. So for the open of the next bar, what I can do is do var open equals, and since trades is an array, I can get trade 0, that's the opening price, right? And what's going to be the close? Well, the close will just be the last one in trades. So trades trades.length -1, that'll be the last one. And then we just need the high of this array, so I can do var high equals math.max, so we'll get the maximum value in this array of trades in the current minute, and that'll be the high. And to do that, math.max actually accepts one or more values, and so just to get an array and pass it to math.max, usually you need to pass it like values like this, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and JavaScript has a thing called the spread operator, where I can just take an array, and then each of those elements will get passed to math.max, and that'll give me the highest number in that array. And then the low, likewise, will be math.min ... trades like that. And so I have an open, high, low, and close that's calculated based on this growing array. And then all I need to do is update my series. So I can do series.update, and I just need to give it my new bar of data. So the time of this is going to be the current bar dot time plus 60. So the previous bar, I'm going to add 60 seconds and go ahead and start rendering a new bar in real time. And then I'll just pass in open, right, that I just calculated up here, high, low, and close like that in real time. I'm going to refresh it, and let's see what our chart looks like now. And then look at that. You see that that number at the end is actually moving. So it's rendering a new bar just like that in real time as new trades come in, right? And so if I log, let me log what those look like in real time. So you can see console.log, and I'll log the open, high, low, and close like this, right? And so you can see it's just keeping track of that first trade that came in the array. And if a new trade that comes in that's higher than the previous high, it just keeps updating this open, high, low, close. And you see this candle grows and it becomes green if it's up for that minute, or red when it's down for that minute. And we have this real-time charting working and rendering on lightweight charts. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video and the visualization aspect of this. We fetched some data using a web request and got the last couple hours of data, and then each time a new bar comes in, we render that entire bar on this chart, but also we're updating the current bar in real time, and you can see it fluctuating as new trades are coming in from our WebSocket. So that's it for this video. In the next one, we'll add the actual grid on top of the chart and start talking about executing trades. So thanks a lot for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. Thanks.